that?
I said good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Have you been to this
panel? I wanted to briefly introduce my guests here. So I have Dan Harlow and Geonni Sigl. Do I say it correctly?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my God, yeah. So Dan, he does film marketing, basically mostly dedicated to Rotten Tomatoes certified and film reviews, how to get it at different stages of your film. Even if your film is not premiering, he also has those strategies, and he created his own PR and marketing firm, and he has also a film fund where he matches films with the right reviewers. Yeah, to tell it briefly. And Geonni, she has a background in United Talent Artists. She was doing distributional marketing, and right now she has her own agency, and she works with studios and with independent theaters, creating some campaigns, for the films and helping filmmakers to get this movie seen and healthy, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's briefly it. And today we are here to talk about some tools that are available for your film, even if it's low budget film or a little bit bigger budget. Today, Dan and Geonni will be sharing some available tools and techniques that you can use to help promote your film. And we will start with just overview of these tools. So how about we start with Dan, and you can talk a little bit about Rotten Tomatoes, and just give some basics to our audience, why is it an important tool and how does it help?
Yeah, from what we do, I mean, I was going to originally make, I started in the industry as someone who's going to invest and finance some films. And then I found out right away how difficult and risky that is financially. And so what I did is I went and did a lot of research on how would you monetize a small film. And it was very difficult to monetize a small film, but one of the things that kept coming up was that very few people write about small films. And this is one of the reasons why it's hard to monetize a small film, because you've got a low budget film, you've got no name actors, no one's going to write about that film. So I thought, well, that's an area that you might be able to game that system. You might be able to go out and find journalists willing to write about small independent films if you, had some technology, or you just put a little elbow grease into it. And that could at least solve that one little problem. And so that's where I started the company, Bunker 15. And so we now focus on getting these small independent films reviewed. And that seems to be where we get the best ROI, because you can get a small writer, a blogger that happens to be one of the blessed Rotten Tomatoes critics. And if you get 10 of them, now you have a Rotten Tomatoes score, and those scores live, for years and years. They live forever. And anyone interested in seeing your film or buying your film, has instant access to this very, public face. And that's where we've seen the ROI. Mm-hmm. That's where we've seen okay, that was worth the effort. Because a lot of stuff, we've tried social media campaigns and things, and it's hard. I'm interested to hear what other strategies there are. But what most of the filmmakers I've spoken to over the years is really challenging to invest a certain amount of money and feel good about the result.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Geonni, what can you say about your techniques, because I think you're more on the distribution side.
Sure. Well, viewers are going to go straight to Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb are some of the first places that people stop when they're looking up, your film. So I think that it's important to be on there.
Yeah.
So if I can back up a little bit, I have experience working for United Artists Releasing, which is MGM Pictures, as well as Annapurna Pictures. I worked for a studio for several years, marketing feature films, big budget films, and so I've seen the studio side and how it works and the types of campaigns that we executed. I was director of marketing for in-theater marketing, and now currently I started my creative agency Ani Creative, and we help support entertainment clients. So we're helping support studios, we're helping support independent theaters, as well as the smaller filmmakers. I did bring some things to put up on the screen, but I don't want to take away from you. Can we kind of make it fluid and jump? So if you want to jump to slide, so finding the best partners, we can start there. So partnering to create buzz for your film. So you want to partner with small local businesses for cross-promotion deals, right? Deals to increase your cinema's reach to a wider audience. So I'm using examples of Moana and Pets too. Obviously, these are huge films, but if you have a film about pets, you want to partner with a local pet store, right? You want to be able to hold an adoption drive at a theater or in a community center. So that could be an idea of kind of raising awareness. It's going to drive people into the pet drive. Everybody loves the adoption, right, drive, and everybody's stopping to see the pets. So that can easily bring you in to the community and allow you to, establish yourself and build awareness for your campaign. Also, partnering with the different aquariums is an example here for Moana. So leverage your existing relationships, contact new potential partners. Don't be afraid to, do outreach. And that's something that you're gonna have to do early on, right? Don't wait until later to start your marketing. Really start thinking about it. Who's your audience? What story are you telling? Is it about mental health? Is it about children, families? Really start early on and hone into your audience. Cross-promote on social media, so make sure your crew is posting on social. Your film should have its own social media page. If that's not obvious, you want to establish that that brand for yourself well in the beginning. Do behind the scenes, introduce your cast and crew. There's a lot of different kind of series you can do on social media before your film's even, out there in the world. Partnering with a local arcade, Sonic 3 being the example, right? So don't be afraid to go out into your community. Anything you want to add about community partners or anything?
Yeah, I was just going to ask the audience about how many of you actually have a film done that you want to market it, or how many of you are sort of still formulating the film and then kind of here because you just want to make sure you have good marketing strategies in the future? Finished films.
Great.
Few. And marketing strategies for the future is the rest of you. Okay.
Okay. For the finished films, do you have dedicated social media platforms for the films? Great. Great.
You mean feature films only, or?
No, for independent film as well. These examples are feature films.
You have
'cause I
a
think
short
it's-
film.
Yeah,
You have a short film.
Yeah, I have a short.
great, great.
Well, maybe like what is it all applicable to short films too? Because generally we know that like short films, they don't generate any income. So like, can you do anything with short films promotion?
Absolutely. I think it's still,
Go ahead. Yeah, you
ahead.
can get reviews. Rotten Tomatoes used to make actual pages for short films, and they don't anymore. They might start again, but right now they don't. You could still get your short film reviewed by professional reviewers, though.
ask for reviews, You have a network of people, whether that's, you start with friends and family, right? And then you start with your industry colleagues, but ask for reviews, ask them to leave comments, start your YouTube page for your short, and be sure that people are leaving reviews. Collecting their emails is great because then you can, reach out to them. Social media is really good, but the one issue with social media, and I think TikTok is a good example right now, right? What's the future of TikTok? You don't kind of own your followers on social media, so it's very important that you're collecting their emails. And then reaching out to them that way, because you own their emails and you're able to reach out. If TikTok or any other social media goes down one day, you're going to lose access to your followers.
And I think actually I want to circle back to something that Dan mentioned during my pre-interview about how these reviews can also not only impact the box office performance, but also play a critical role in securing funding or greenlighting your future project. So maybe it can tie into that. So I just wanted you to.
Oh, yeah.
share this
I would
information.
say the producers that most of the time is actual filmmakers that come to us. Not the distributors, the dream that, you're going to get your distributor to pay for all your publicity. Doesn't seem to happen anymore, at least not in the independent space. They're telling you, yes, we'll distribute your film on a certain amount of platforms, but we're not going to spend anything on publicity. So the filmmaker comes to us and then said, we would like, critics to actually look at our film. We think it's above average. Most of the time they're right. Most of the time they do get some pretty good reviews. But they have to fund the campaign, and usually what's happening is that filmmaker is only thinking about that film like 30%. 70% of the reason they're coming to us isn't for that film, it's actually for their next film. It's for their career, because they want funding for their next film. And anytime they have a meeting with an investor, 5 minutes before that meeting with the investor, that investor is going to be where? It's going to be on your Rotten Tomatoes page. It's going to be looking you up to see how your last movie performed. So that, most of the time, people are doing this publicity because it lives forever and it helps their career and their funding opportunities in the future. I did once a 5-year-old movie because of exactly that. The guy said, I'm trying to look for funding on my next movie, and I have 1,000 Amazon reviews, and lo and behold, as it turns out, nobody cares about Amazon reviews. They want real critics. So anyway, we went back and did his old movie. You had a question?
Yeah, can I ask a question? Yeah.
Sure.
I'm curious especially for short films, once you start the circuit and you get in a couple festivals, and then if you win a couple of things, what's the best way to contact someone, to get a write-up somewhere, to get more buzz going for, if you've got a bigger festival coming up or just some more premieres? Like, I'm curious where the next step is to, like, how do you approach PR people, or like obviously Deadline, right, is like the big, but if you're a small-time filmmaker, like, where are some local places? How do you reach out?
Sure.
Like, is there a strategy there to start, once there's traction gaining, to get some write-up about it?
Sure. I think that, reaching out to local news outlets is actually very good, especially if there's like a film festival or something in town. Also, schools, universities, reach out to them, put your information out to the schools. They're going to share it with their film networks. And I've found that they're very willing to push stuff out, whether it's to their students or to their professional community partners as well. Schools is a good one. And, we have so much technology at our fingertips. Getting an outline for a press release is very easy. So, you can write it yourself, and you don't necessarily need to hire a PR professional. There's a lot of just simply Googling and kind of figuring it out. LinkedIn is another good one. There's a lot of filmmakers on LinkedIn. If you're not using it and you don't have, your own individual profile, I highly suggest getting a LinkedIn profile and being active on there, because a lot of filmmakers and producers and financiers are on there actively looking for things that you're posting. So staying active, yes, people may or may not care about your Amazon reviews, but they're going to go look you up, and they're going to want to see that you as an individual and your film are active, and they want to see that things are flowing, people are engaged with your film product.
How does that approach work? Like, would you just send an outline, say you have your own press release that you made, like, would you just email a news place, say, hey, I've got this film screening, here's the write-up, like, is that the right approach? Just keep
Yep.
it short?
Yep. You email it to them. They may or may not take on the story, but establishing yourself, building that relationship, being persistent, and if you have a few projects, just being out there, and also getting out into your community, whether it's certain film networking events or even press events where you can go and meet some of these journalists and just kind of shake their hand, introduce yourself, and keep those connections. Ask to sit down for a coffee and tell them about your project. It's just networking yourself as well as, you know, your film is just as important.
I wanted also to bring up a Letterboxd, though. I'm sorry, Dan, do you have anything to
Yeah, I was gonna say, everybody, you know, I always get asked to comment on the DIY process for getting reviews, and it's just incredibly difficult. I mean, I talk to critics every day, and I talk to filmmakers all the time, and almost always they try to DIY it before they came to us. It is really hard because, you know, typically, you know, you're finished with your film, you have a certain number of weeks, maybe, before it starts in festivals or before it premieres on Amazon Prime or something. That is not a lot of time to build a gigantic database of critics and develop relationships from people that you don't even know. And most, you know, a lot of the critics that I deal with, they do not want to deal with the producer directly. They don't want to deal with the filmmaker. They all have a story about how some filmmaker pulled a fatal attraction on them and, you know, they didn't like their movie or something, and then this filmmaker just, you know, stalked them for a year or something. So they don't want to, and then they also kind of ethically know that they're not supposed to work for studios, so they're not supposed to communicate directly with a studio, and they associate studios with producers, and so, like, all of a sudden the independent producer, oh, you're the filmmaker, you're the studio, I can't deal with you. You know, a lot of them feel that way. So as a filmmaker, as a producer, you're already starting at a huge disadvantage. You want to work through some sort of third party that already has maybe sent those critics films in the past. It's really
So
tough
is it
to
hiring
DIY.
someone on your team that is responsible for PR, or that's not in that, you know, executive role?
You know, it's really best to go to someone like Geonni or myself, or somebody that has made a living at this sort of work.
Third party, just a third party.
Yeah, you gotta go through a third party.
Yeah, it makes sense.
For critics.
And yes, for critics.
For critics.
For critics.
Yeah.
That might be different for other journalists. And the only folks that I know that even have a modicum of success, they're ones that they're working on the 15th or 20th film, so they might have an ongoing relationship with a critic or two, and then they're still working through third parties, though, even though those third parties might be people that are really on their team. They sort of pose as third parties. So those, and even then, they're lucky to get 2 reviews.
Well, I also wanted to mention how you incentivize them, because when we also spoke previously on the phone, you were sharing some ideas of how do you encourage critics to review your film, but without bribing them, basically.
Yeah, it's not as hard as I thought. We just approached them. What I noticed is that there was this inverse relationship between how hard it was to find their contact information and how responsive they are. If I was talking to somebody, say at Variety, where his email address is posted on Variety's website, never going to respond to me, because everybody in the world has that person's email. But if it's somebody who I had to hire like a team in India to, hunt the internet, and finally I dug up this person's email, he'll respond within an hour. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, that sounds interesting. Send me a screener. It's not as hard, If you target them with something customized, a lot of them want to review small independent films. They're tired of Marvel and Star Wars. So if you approach them the right way, it's not as hard to get there. Then it's a scheduling issue. Do they have the time to do it? Which is also a big question.
Right, yeah. And Letterboxd, I've also heard from some filmmakers at the festival that it's growing in its influence, and it really helps also to drive some eyeballs, because people really care about, non-professional reviews. So I just wanted to hear both of your thoughts about Letterboxd and if you work with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people are on there, and to me, I see it as another social platform where you need to have a presence and make sure that you're engaged. If people are talking, in your comments on social or wherever it may be, just make sure you're engaged and you're there and you're creating that face. But I do think that Letterboxd is important, and you need to have a presence there.
We don't deal much with it. People ask me about Letterboxd, Amazon, IMDb ratings. It's hard to manipulate, or it's hard to control any of that. No one knows how they get their IMDb scores. I've had people come to me and like, that movie isn't out yet, and it's got 500 one-star reviews. How's that possible? Nobody could possibly dislike this movie because it doesn't exist yet. So no one knows how any of that stuff works.
What I find funny, when I was at the studio, it was very, IMDb is more user-generated, and it's more of the users. Like, for us, it was like, don't trust what you see on IMDb. It's just don't trust, right? It's not accurate. But from a viewer standpoint, they're using that as a source, right? So, make sure it's updated. It's also very hard to change your IMDb once something's out there in the universe. So you want to have control over it from the beginning. Make sure the imagery, you don't want a user going and plopping some bad image as the key image on, IMDb. You want to make sure that you're in control of it and ahead of it. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Not really. I mean, one thing I was thinking about on my multi-hour drive to Borrego Springs here. It's like, I had lots of time to think about what I was going to say. But I've done multiple of these talks already, and at one point that I've never brought up, I think is interesting, is that we've done like 300 movies, and I've maybe 200 different filmmakers, and all those filmmakers, they come in two broad buckets. And you have to decide which bucket you're in. Like, there's one bucket of filmmakers that I deal with that don't mind taking a year or two to make a film, because that's how long it takes to, write and finance and produce and post-production a film. And then they don't mind spending another year or two promoting that one film, right? And like documentary filmmakers are often this way. Like, you've made a movie about bees. Your life is about bees. And that's great. I'm interested in bees too, a little bit, and cool. You've made this movie about bees, and now that they've made it, now they're going to spend the next 2 years of their life driving around the country showing this movie about bees. And they're going to spend months and months and months doing nothing but promoting this film to the retail audience to try to get it to catch on. And if that's you, then you have a lot of options. You can get creative. Obviously, you have a lot of time. You can do a lot of stuff. But there's this other bucket of filmmakers that I deal with even more. And those are folks who take a year or two to make their movie, because it still takes a year or two to make a movie these days. And then once they're done, they kind of want to start making their next movie. They don't want to spend a year of their life doing nothing but trying to get people to watch their last movie. They want somebody else to do that. So then what's interesting about that group, which from my perspective seems to be the larger group, the artists, the people who want to make art, and then they want to hand it off and somebody else can monetize. that group, the meaning of the word audience changes. Then they're not trying to market their film to the retail buyer. They're trying to market their film to the buyer at Netflix, or the buyer at Hulu, or the buyer at HBO. They're trying to get somebody to buy their film. And then that group of people will then retail market it. All right? So it's still the same kind of process, though. You still have to market your film to, in this case, a much smaller set of buyers. Sony, IFC, Netflix, Hulu, Apple.
Yeah, and
So you could still get someone like Geonni here to market your film to those buyers. And if you do a good job, they'll buy your movie for a heck of a lot of money, and then you can go make your next one.
And I think like even if they do buy it or do not buy it, like you, like Filmmaker right now, like sort of like expected to do a lot of marketing lift by themselves. Yeah.
There's an article out there, the most successful DIY theatrical run was this film called Tulsa that came to us a while back. And apparently, she got this film in 400 theaters. She made $500,000. You know, so she kind of, and it wasn't as hard as she thought it was going to be. Like the list of theaters in the country is basically public. You can go out there and a little bit of research, find a list of 2,000 independent theaters, and you just email them. And if you have established a track record, any kind of track record, where this film showed in this theater and it, was 3/4 full or half full, then you could demonstrate that to the next theater owner, then all of a sudden you get a snowball effect and everybody kind of wants to book your film. And she did Facebook ads and all this, and she made, a lot of money. I don't know how much went into her pocket versus being split up in front of everybody. In the middle of it, but I asked her towards the end of the interview, the last 5 minutes of the interview, said, well, what would you do differently next time, or would you do it again the same way? And her answer was, no, I would never do it again, which was a real surprising answer. And I said, well, why? It seems like such a grand success. And she said, well, because this is like my whole life for a year.
It's a lot of work.
All I did for a year was email theater owners, pitch theater owners, make Facebook ads, run Facebook paid campaigns, cut up the trailer in a different way that I thought might be even better, and on and on and on. And she said, I don't want to do it anymore.
That's what you're paying for with the studio, for sure. Film buyers, there are film buying services you can Google. There are film buyers that place films into independent cinemas. Some of the theaters will hire film buyers to bring films their way. So you can Google film buying services. That's a good one, and let them do the outreach to the theaters, or they may have a network of theaters already. I think there was a question.
Oh, well, off that, I was gonna, is that the same as film sellers? That's different?
A film buyer, a film seller, yep.
Oh, okay,
I'm sorry. In a theater or would have a film buyer role. Booking agencies will book the film into theaters.
Well, my question, so I have a short film, and what you guys were talking about earlier about having the motivation to keep going for 1 to 2 years, to keep, wanting to do all this. I'm just so curious about your advice, because I feel like with my team, we've been like, oh, what's our goal? Always be clear what our goal, and like for me, with the short, it's either to make an independent TV version of this, or sell it, or also start my own first feature, and I wonder if, you have any advice about staying motivated and what the reasons are when things get like.
What is your short about?
My film is called Wabi Sabi, and it's about dating, interracial dating a little bit, and it's about like a guy who she's worried if her date fetishizes her for being half Japanese or not. So I like, on one side I like the shows like Girls, or like, Doll Face, and like things like that, and like I think that's or like Insecure, and like see a way from that being the future. But then I also love like things like Coralie Argette's like The Substance, or like a movie, like totally different, just saying like, oh, I made this, so I can also make a movie. So maybe my problem is I have 2 goals.
Yeah, what would you say your goal is? I was going to ask, is to bring it to TV, right? But also,
this project, I think it has the most potential to be a TV show. And then, but the thing is, I would also like to make my first feature separate. So even though this is a different project, I would also
Sure.
like to.
Well, and for this TV show, what is your goal, or what's the message? What's important to you that comes across through your body of work?
I mean, I think it's just that self-acceptance, like through like we all are very judgmental. You know, like things can seem very surface, like, and the world of modern dating and living and work and balancing all of that, and just really like seeing it through in my case is like the lens of like Asian American women. But I think it's ultimately about like self-acceptance and like.
Okay. So to empower.
To empower, yeah, and that's
Okay.
a common theme I think of like all the works that do is like regaining your power.
So I think sharing that story and getting out to, again, community partners, like where is that audience, right? Where are the Asian women that you're looking to target? Where do they live, and how are you going to get your story across to them? And it sounds like by being able to share your story with them and empower them, you're going to be able to, that would be satisfactory to you, right? As far as you're accomplishing your goal. So in order to reach now going to a feature film, like, is your goal to win an award for this? Is it to be, shared throughout, I don't know, community centers where you'll be able to have a run? Or do you want this to be on TV, like in theaters? Like what, I guess what's
The short or
the short?
The short, I mean, I don't think short films go to theaters.
Not theaters, but like festivals, right? So if your goal is to have the feature film, I guess I'm asking, your goal is to empower with your short, but how you need to establish credibility from that short for, in order to move into the feature. Not that it can't be done, but that's ultimately your goal, is to use this experience to give you credibility to keep going and to eventually do a feature, correct?
Yeah, correct, yeah.
So I think your question was, how do you stay motivated, right? Again, if this story is important and will resonate with women and empower women, then I think if you can get that story into the eyes of women and so they can view it and empower and tell their stories, hopefully be open to telling their stories that align with your short, I think to me that's a success. Am I wrong? So have you done any community screenings? Yes, thank you. Have you done anything like that for your short?
As for, like, we've been in a few festivals, we won a few festivals.
Great.
Best short film and like 4 festivals. So I feel a little bit of doing this run, I mean, I kind of got burnt out, to be honest, by the December. We started our run. I feel like we had a couple, but we really started in September, and we started at the Japan Film Festival, Los Angeles, Best Comedy. So that would be like a more, I guess, community short, because it was like a very specific audience.
Well,
So-
I can make a couple comments. I mean,
Yeah.
I think where you're going with this is, I was talking to a producer the other day, a very successful producer in Hollywood, and his whole life now is begging for money. His whole life he is trying to find patrons of the arts. He's made a series of very good, very successful movies where none of the investors got any of their money back. And these are great movies, they're just out there on Netflix. They've played at huge festivals. They've been in theaters. Investors lost almost everything. And that's what he foresees in the future. And so what he's going to do now, what his life has been for years and what will continue to be, is begging for money. Look for patrons of the arts. Your film is no longer a money-making venture, and that's the reality, is that a lot of these films are not money-making venture. They're art pieces. So you're looking for a patron of the arts. A lot of the producers that I talk to no longer even call their investors, because that implies that you might get a return on your investment, or you might get your money back. She doesn't even like that implication. Now you're a benefactor, so now you're a patron. So same thing, give me your money, you're a patron. And so he's looking for, he's got a movie about American Indians. He's going to look for American Indian groups and tribal groups and casino owners. He's got another one about Japanese internments. He's going to look for wealthy Japanese. He's got a movie about technology, so he's going to find some technology billionaire to fund it. So this is the whole process. So you're marketing, you're doing marketing now. You're putting these pieces together. Yeah, I don't have the money for the movie yet. And maybe you make a short. He's done that too, right? He's got brilliant shorts. This is now your marketing piece to get funding. So that's, as a filmmaker, that could be your life, right?
I guess
Yeah,
what,
excuse me, can you guys connect on this after, because I also want to move on to another question, because
Sure,
we're also
sure.
running out of time a little bit. Yeah.
I'd love to chat a little bit more.
I have a question about YouTube. So I know there's a lot of creators right now that are generating like real short content. They build an audience and then they start generating income based on the short stuff that they're making. And then they make a really good, 30, 40-minute piece, or they're making a really good series. What would you suggest? I have an idea for a YouTube channel that I would like to run, that covers women in the outdoors, and there'd be other branches of it. And I have a short that's screening in this festival that is within that same genre. But it takes a long time to build a YouTube channel. So would you recommend releasing what I have now just on on my private platform, and then work on, this extended YouTube channel on side? I'm trying to build my audience to generate income in a different way, because it's hard. It's hard to generate.
It's a good idea to leverage your current audience. Know that if you're posting different stuff on your personal page and you all of a sudden start posting something else, you may lose followers, right? Be prepared to lose them. But you may eventually, if that takes off, are you prepared to let go of your personal page and convert it into your
For
shorts page?
clarification, I have nothing on my personal page right now.
Okay.
I haven't released anything.
Okay.
I'm just curious if
Put it out there.
Yeah, is it better to just
Put it out there.
Get views, and then at some point if I
That's
make this other
how you're
channel,
gonna build it.
Release it over there or something? Is that better?
Yeah, or it sounds like you don't have anything personal content on there anyway, so that's just the channel. I think just pick it
Okay,
and
just
start.
let it ride.
Just
and build
let
up
it
that
ride.
way. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we get so particular and try to be a perfectionist about things, and it'll ultimately, stifle our.
'Cause you can re-release
growth.
stuff, if
Absolutely.
you can
Reuse
release it on
stuff.
a different channel or something like that, right?
Reuse content. That's the way you're going to make your money go the furthest. Your time, effort go the furthest is by reusing things.
I've done some things on YouTube before. I work for a podcast. So one of the things that was great about just releasing something and letting it go, you can go back and look at the analytics to see what natural audiences are taking.
Absolutely.
So that, you're saying that would help build out a future channel potential, see what's working.
Can I
what's
see
not
the
working.
slide?
Yeah,
Yes.
there's that component.
Or you could just
I'm a
flip.
big believer in experimentation, but it also lets you know who's your
Okay.
audience.
Okay.
That's viewing
Next
it,
one,
like
7.
that. And then just with that information alone, then you can start figuring out what your next steps
I'm gonna chat
are.
with you more later.
Informed.
That sounds great. I'm gonna chat with you more later. That's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I have something on here on analytics. I thought I did. But absolutely, what Lauren just said, if you didn't hear that, is look at your analytics. What are people responding to? And then whatever they're not responding to, get rid of it. You don't have to delete it, but you know what you need to post. The more you post, the more you're gonna know what people are reacting to.
Yeah, because currently I just have a website, so it's like all of my portfolio is just on my website, but I know the way to move forward as a filmmaker is to brand yourself and to get an audience, and so I'm realizing, okay, I gotta
Yep.
make my socials match. I just hate social media, so it's.
I know, we all do, but it's a business tool.
Yeah,
It's a
is.
business tool. Utilizing social media influencers, so collaborate with creators. They don't have to have millions of followers. They can be micro influencers, 5,000, 1,000, whatever, under 10,000. Collaborate with the creators who align with the film's themes or aesthetic. Again, a film about mental health can partner with a mental health advocate to create relatable content and help reach a wider audience. Have those creators watch your short, provide a review on it, and have them share it. Community-based events I already talked about going to, so a film aimed at Black and Latino communities can host screenings with local community organizations, cultural festivals, panel discussions, Q&As, and then targeted content and advertising. So again, knowing your audience is very important, and then finding those influencers or people online that can help amplify your story is really what's gonna be best. And again, I think defining your goal, to go back to your short earlier, is just, what's my goal? Is it just to empower people, and what does that look like? And what does what does success look like, you know, if it is empowering people? Is it to, you know, help kids? And I think you will be fulfilled in that way. And I don't think that, you know, for life, you're going to have this ongoing campaign about your story. But again, I think it's more just defining what success looks like to you.
Okay, we have actually just 3 minutes left. Do you guys have a question to our great panelists before? No, because if not, then.
I actually have one question. How many people have been to the American film market? Or have ever been to a film market?
Is that the one in Santa Monica?
It used to be in Santa Monica. I guess it relocated to Vegas. I don't know if it's coming back.
I went to the new one.
In Vegas.
No, there was one in downtown LA recently.
The film convention.
Yes, that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So similar, but that's an opportunity for you to go get a day pass. Costs probably costs $200.
300, yeah, like you better buy in advance, yeah.
Buy in advance, a couple $100. You can meet with the international sales agents and domestic distributors, and all they do for that week is meet with basically everybody that wants to meet with them.
Yeah.
So they book 30 minutes from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So you can meet with people that you wouldn't otherwise be able to meet with, and you could say, this is the movie that I have, or this is the movie that I'm thinking about making. Do you see yourself as a potential buyer? Who are the potential buyers? How much would the sales estimate be? And they can give you kind of real-time feedback. That's one of the reasons why I asked, have you already made a movie yet? Because if you haven't, that's what you should do first before you make the movie. Go to environments like that and stress test the idea. And then they'll say, oh, you want to make a romantic comedy? Well, then that's not going to sell anywhere other than the United States. And then it'll only sell in the United States if you have an A-lister. Do you have an A-lister? And you'll say, oh, yeah. You won't say that. So then they'll say, well, then what you can do is you can go to Film Hub, and you can self-distribute it through Film Hub, and good luck. Right, and then, you know, maybe those, but they probably won't generate a lot of income. So you get real-time information. So that's a great, you know, thing to do if you haven't.
Totally. I agree 100%. I just went to American Film Market with, I'm a producer, so I brought a director who has a halfway completed thing and one concept thing, and it was great because I started reaching out like a month before. And a lot of people, they get back to me, you know, it's like I absolutely cold. You find all this context on American Film Market website. They list all the buyers who participate. You like download this list, research it, because, you know, like not everyone would like your movie. So you got to see, like, are they into genres? Are they into horrors? Do they like comedies? You know, if you see something similar, then you can say like, hey, like I saw that you like actually worked on this movie and I have something similar to you. Like, can we meet? And they love to meet you, and they will tell you so many amazing things. Like my director was crying because they were like, you should like direct Marvel movies. You're so great. Look at this. Like, this is so amazing. And he was like all, you know, crying like, oh my God, like, but it doesn't say like guarantee anything, you know, they just kind of want you to bring the stuff back to them, but they can say like, hey, like, we don't invest, you know, like, oh, like come back to us when the movie is complete, you know, something like that. But
What do
they
you
will
guys
tell
think
you.
about platforms like, pronouncing it wrong, Momentu, because it's a platform I ran into at the market that we were talking about, where I guess they're like a hub for like streamers to come find them. So if they get enough traction, then your film gets picked up on Netflix or Amazon or something like that. I don't know if that's.
Do they charge a fee?
I don't think so.
It's worth a shot, I would
Yeah.
think, yeah.
I've had a few friends put their features on there. I haven't seen much. I'm just curious what your guys' thoughts were. Those like middleman type.
Yeah, I mean, you know, definitely pay attention to what their fees and things like that, because sometimes if it's too good to be true, it probably is. But if it's free and it doesn't hurt you to put your content out there, I mean, I think anything's possible. Also, look at other like comps, right? So I know we all want to be unique and stand out, but you know, usually there's something you can relate to your film or your short, what's out there currently and what are they doing. Like, pay attention to what other you know, filmmakers are doing and how they're handling things, and you know, take inspiration from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we can wrap on this like a positive note, you know, because it's
Yay.
2:46. But yeah.
Thank you so much for having
yeah,
us.
Well, thank you guys. Like I think like I hope.